In this video, I'll be talking about Brave New World, Chapter 12. All right, John is starting to rebel, and he doesn't really want to hang out with people anymore because he's become so disgusted by the New World. So Bernard is throwing a party. He has a lot of really important guests there, and John won't come out. And Lenina is there, and when she hears John isn't coming out, she feels the beginning of a violent passion surrogate treatment. But this is not surrogate. It's not a replacement. She's not getting a shot in the arm. This is real. So what she's feeling is violent passion, right? A sense of dreadful emptiness, a breathless apprehension, a nausea. Her heart stops beating. She's she's in love with John. It might be too early to say that. I think she's in kind of like a early high school, like your first crush, your first love, that type of love. She doesn't know him well enough to truly be in love. But she's incapable of recognizing this feeling because first of all, she's never been denied anybody before. There's never really been a gap between wanting someone and getting them for Lenina. So she doesn't understand that type of suffering. But secondly, she doesn't understand that type of attachment to anybody. And so that's why she can't recognize the feeling. All right. After Bernard tells people that John's not coming out, he has to endure this really terrible dinner party where everyone's openly talking crap about him, or like directly criticizing him. And then they all leave and they ignore him. And the Arch Community songster says this really cutting thing, mend your ways. And then the Arch Community songster takes Lenina home, and we understand that they're going to have sex. Bernard doesn't actually seem all that stressed about this, which is odd considering that the whole first part of the novel, Bernard is in agony over Lenina. But as soon as he brings John back, Bernard and Lenina seem to kind of split apart, and they don't spend a lot of time together anymore. So Bernard's opinion of society has changed. He was so used to being an outsider and so used to criticizing society, but as soon as society kind of let him in a little bit, even under the false pretenses of, trying to get closer to John, he was all about society. He was like, yeah, I'm hanging out with like the Arch Community songster and like the Eton headmistress, and they're coming over for dinner, and I'm having all these women. And now he's taking Soma to try to run away from the pain of being rejected by that society. Meanwhile, Lenina totally doesn't care about anything in society anymore. She's like, I guess I'll go home with the community arch songster or whatever. And she doesn't really want to, but she does it anyway. So in a sense, Lenina and Bernard have totally flip-flopped in terms of how they perceive society and how they are fulfilled or not fulfilled by society. Okay, so upstairs, John is reading Romeo and Juliet, and Lenina and the Arch Community songster are going home to have sex. And I think this is appropriate because, of course, John and Lenina are Romeo and Juliet, right? They're two star-crossed lovers who come from very different worlds, and they kind of want to be together, but it looks like it's not going to work out because their worlds are just too different, and society doesn't support them. And also, like Romeo and Juliet, John and Lenina are not really able to communicate clearly, right? Romeo and Juliet is a problematic love story because of the communication issues and because nobody knows what they want, or how to talk to other people about it, right? So I think that there's definitely some parallels there. Okay, we get to talk to Mustafa Mond a little bit here. And Mustafa Mond is in charge of deciding which books get published. He rejects this book on biology, and he says, the author's mathematical treatment of the conception of purpose is novel and highly ingenious, but heretical, and so far as the present social order is concerned, dangerous and potentially subversive. So Mustafa Mond says, this guy is right. This theory is correct. However, if we publish this, it could cause people to question social order. It could cause people to question the government and stability. Therefore, we cannot publish. And we have to keep an eye on this guy to make sure he doesn't like get his news out in other ways. He says that it would be fun if one didn't have to think about happiness. And he says that the purpose of life might be to expand humanity's knowledge, but we can't admit this publicly. So if the real purpose of life is to expand human knowledge, but the expansion of human knowledge leads to instability, then we don't want the highest order of meaning. We want the second highest order of meaning, which is happiness. So he's saying, like, right now, the point of living is to be happy. But really, a higher point of being would be to expand human experience and knowledge. But that comes with war, that comes with jealousy, that comes with anger. So instead, we're going to have a lesser existence. So happiness is a burden because it means you can never have innovation, you can never have art. All you can put through into the world are simple, basic things that people don't question, that people don't think about. So it's less interesting to be happy, but it is more stable. And that's why happiness is a burden. All right, question 5 from chapter 12. The crime that Helmholtz commits is that he gives his students a poem that he wrote. And he's trying to make them feel what he was feeling as he wrote it. And the poem is about loneliness. Now, of course, loneliness is not a thing you're supposed to feel in the new world. You're always supposed to be surrounded by people. So if you are writing something to make people feel lonely, then you are, engaging in a subversive act. Okay, so Helmholtz and John meet up, and then they become really good friends because, of course, they're both sensitive souls. They have a feeling for poetry. They have a feeling for romance. Bernard does not. He feels left out from this little bromance, and so that's why he acts so obnoxiously and tries to ruin their fun, because he can't stand to watch them getting closer while he's left out. All right, number 7. The last question says, why are the emotional engineers of the Brave New World unable to write poetry? So Helmholtz says that Shakespeare was such a good writer because he had so many insane, excruciating things to get excited about. You've got to be hurt and upset, otherwise you can't think of the really good, penetrating X-ray-ish phrases. But nobody in the New World is upset. Nobody in the New World is in pain. And so the pain that leads to good artistry is totally missing from the New World. Even when Helmholtz is conscious of a desire to write about something more meaningful, he doesn't have any experience to draw from for that. So that's why the Brave New World emotional engineers can never be true poets unless they reject society and try some other way to induce suffering into their lives.